Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton, along with me, as always, and there's no alliterations today because she's just like the second Beth McChesney in Oaks, Pennsylvania. Bethany McChesney, because you got outshone big time.
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she got outshone by the little one.
Yep.
Um, and as well, for the first time, Janelle Teal, right? Is that right? Get it?
Yes. Yes.
Nice. Good. And Beth and I were talking before, and I was like, I wanted to have you on because we never hear from you. Like I see you at the events and you're doing killer stuff, and we never hear from you and never get to hear your thoughts on stuff and what's going on. And you're such a part of the community, and yet it's like been a silent, it's been not vocal. And I wanted to hear what you thought about everything and how your takes.
Okay. I think that's a fair assessment. It's like either I am at the race with my husband and my two small children, and we're kind of like in, but we're trying to get back out as fast as possible, or I'm by myself and I'm trying to get back home as fast as possible. So I think that's why, I even had one race where Shan asked me to do an interview post race, and I was like, yeah, of course. But I was looking for him before it was time for me to go, and I didn't see him, and so I just never did it. So it's kind of like what happens.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and you have two twins too, right? So kind of double trouble.
well,
Yes, there are three.
okay, so one set of twins, not two sets of twins.
Yeah, one set of twins. They're 3 years old. Yes.
Mhm.
That's that's a handful. My brother's got twins too, so I've been through that. How old is they? You said three?
Yeah, they're three. There'll be four in 2 weeks. But yeah, I mean, they do really well at the races. It's funny because they kind of have done it for the past 2 years now, so they do really well. But it's just like when you have your kids with you, you're trying to. They're always the priority. So if they've been in an arena for 3 hours or 2.5 hours, it's just kind of like trying to shuttle them back out so they don't have to do something that they don't necessarily want to for so long because they're
Mhm.
small.
Yeah. So I don't want to go like too deep in history stuff, but the first time you came up on my radar was back at Worlds 2023 in the Strong. And you were
Hmm.
in the second wave, and I think you came out of the second wave to finish sixth, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did you get, I mean, I've only seen you do Deca. I don't know if you've done High Rocks or OCR or anything, but how did you get started in this?
Um, so I have done high rocks and I did what did I do first? I think I did a Deca first. Deca Fit Carolinas was my first Deca. Um, Earlier in 2023, so 2023 Deca Fit was my first one. In January of 2023, I did my very first Deca Strong. Um, and that's where I realized like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. So then I signed up to do the race in the Carolinas. Didn't really want to travel because wasn't that invested. So I signed up to do the one in June, and in between that time, I did my first high rocks. Um, and again, I did pretty well. I mean, it's funny because I even said in my last post, like I've always felt like I'm the fastest of like the regular women, but I'm the slowest of the elite women. So it's always been a little bit tricky because coming out the gate, my first races, I was pretty fast. But then when I'm beside, the faster women in the elite group, I'm normally like I'm number 20 or I'm number 18, so I kind of fall at the bottom. Um, and so those are my first two experiences with it. And because I did well, I wanted to continue to race to see if I can get faster, see if I can get better. But like I said, I'm juggling a lot of things all the time. Like, I mean, like a lot of us are, but I have small kids. I have a business that I run. I have my own race that I put on once a year. Um, I mean, and so on top of everything else, it's like, okay, I have to find time to train and do all these things and see how invested I want to be. Um, so in 2024, I think I've put a little bit more emphasis on trying to get better, trying to get faster, in high rocks and in Deca.
Before, sorry, before I forget, what's your own race? What race do you put on?
It's a 5K, 10K in the community. It's called
Oh,
Ellie and Zoe's Run. And the twins, my girls, they were born preemie. They were 10 weeks early. And so we spent a lot of time in the NICU. And so the initiative of my race is to raise money for Madeline's Fund, which is a local nonprofit that raises money for families that have babies in the NICU. So that race is every year around my birthday. My daughter's birthday is the day after mine. So I was in labor on Labor Day on my birthday. And so it's always around the same day. And so this year it's on the 7th, which is my birthday.
Well, that's awesome.
So yeah, anybody in the North Carolina area who wants to run it, it's a fun race. It's a fun
Does
race.
Tara go out to that one?
I'm trying to get her to come.
All right,
So
we're gonna harp on her.
yeah, I'm trying to get her to come because I have won the 10K in the female division. This is my third year. I've won the past 2 years. I want somebody to beat me. There are so many people that are faster than me. So I want them to come. I have Lululemon prizes, all the good stuff. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm gonna
All
try and
right.
get her to come.
So you're back to the deck, and like you say, you struck me as like more of a power athlete. Like you say, you're not the faster runner. You get the power and stuff.
Yeah,
But this year, like you said, when we saw it, and we just mentioned quickly before, when we saw you at the Ultra, it just seemed like you stepped up to a whole nother level. Like you looked amazing at that Ultra. And Beth can
thank
tell
you.
firsthand.
Thank you. So it's funny because I saw the ultra and in my head I was like, I think I can do that. And I told my husband about it like a month before I hadn't registered. And I was like, I think I want to do this. And he's like, Are you sure? That's kind of long. It might be hard on your body. And I'm like, Quentin, like I can he knows I can do anything. Like I'm a worker bee. Like that's me. Like I'm a worker. So I can grind something out even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's long. I'm not going to be the fastest person, but I knew that I could be very consistent. And I knew that my consistency is where I could do well. And so when they released like the names of everyone who was going to do it, and I was like, well, I mean, there's no Tara, there's no. So I was like, well, maybe I got a chance, to win. And I honestly thought, and I told him, I was like, Quentin, I can win it. Like I can do it. It's the first year. It probably is going to have the lowest participation this year because it's the first year. So I was like, well, I kind of want to do it to win it. And he, of course, he's always supporting me. So he was like, sure, go ahead. Now, when I got there and I saw, I didn't know Brooklyn. Like I knew that she's had like pretty solid times. And then I saw, uh, I know her name. I don't know why I can't think of her name.
Lauren Rentella.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw Lauren was there, part of me was kind of like, oh shit, like this is who is probably gonna, like who could beat me. But I was so determined, like I knew that I could be consistent. And even as we were racing, the whole time I was like, maybe she's gonna fade. I think she's gonna fade. I'm not gonna fade that much. Maybe she's gonna fade. And I mean, she didn't. And kudos to her. Like she smashed it. Like she did great. And she's beaten me in high rock in every high rocks that I've done before. So it's not like I was very surprised, but I just know that I can play the long game. And I just really felt like that was kind of like more my wheelhouse than a 30-minute workout. A longer one, I feel like I can almost do better at.
I don't think we ever talked about this, but do you guys think it'll be back? And if so, do you think they'll do like more than one? Because rumor I heard like maybe they might do one, two or three in a year. And I'm like, I was kind of thinking one a year would be enough, but what's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think one or two a year probably is enough. Especially if they're giving out prizes for it, because nobody's gonna do an ultra. Well, not many people are gonna do an ultra if there's no prize associated with it, right? Or the thought of a prize. I mean, it just is a long, it's work, like it's a lot of work. And so you can do it and it's not as terrible as one might think when you're in it. To me, I felt like it was totally fine. You're so focused on the task in front of you that you can't even consider that it's been 2 hours. To me, at least I didn't. And I'm like, okay, I got 2 laps to run. Okay, I passed my zone one time. The next time I see it, I have to go in. It's like you're so focused on the minor challenges that you can't even see the big picture. You just have to take it one task at a time. But I think two a year is plenty. If it was me that was putting them on, I think twice a year is plenty. Otherwise, they're going to be so thin. You're not going to have very many people that the participation will be low.
Yeah, I agree. I think even doing one like they did 6, 7 months out from Worlds, do your one ultra, because it's not an event that they host at World, so it's not a qualifier for anything. So it's a bit more of
Right.
an event that you do to up your training, maybe an off season or something. But yeah, I agree. Like if you add too many more in there, then you kind of thin the water a little bit with the competition. So I think even just like they did this year, do one, make it an event that if you're going to do the ultra, you do it that one time. It's not really, I mean, sometimes people will go back to ultra races because of the scenery or the beauty and the location and the travel experience. But I mean, the Deca Ultra, we're talking about running it around inside a convention center, so you're not really going there for the scenery. So I think that what they did this year with the one, make it a one shot deal, and you kind of do it 6, 7 months out of Worlds, and make it like they did this year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Also, the volunteers, right? Like they're there for, you need so many volunteers and they're there for so long. It's just a really long time to have a group of people. Um, like your spectators are going to be low, I think, because you're inside. You don't want to watch somebody run in a circle for 3.5 hours. So you're never really going to have that many spectators, I don't think, aside from like our family and our friends. And it's just like you would need so many volunteers to be there for so long. It just wouldn't make sense, I don't think. I
Yeah.
heard they're doing one in Florida though, like in 2 weeks. That's what somebody said.
What?
No way. Like
That's what
Ocala?
somebody said. Yeah. Yeah. They said that it's going to be on Sunday and it's going to be just like if you want to do it. There's no price payout, but if you wanted to do the ultra,
In
that's what I
Ocala.
heard. Uh-huh. That's what I heard. I can't remember. I think Brooklyn maybe told me. I don't remember.
Brooklyn spreading rumors.
Let's
Sorry,
start the
Brooklyn.
rumor. Maybe it'll
I don't remember.
happen.
I agree. Let's just say it's going to happen and see who shows up.
Right. Let's see who wants to do it.
It'd be like if you're there anyways, might as well stay and do 5 more Deca fits.
That's how some people think. Why not?
I think you hit on something, Beth, though. I think the timing of the year was good for it.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
like
I agree.
it didn't affect anybody kind of trying to prepare for Worlds or anything else. Like I thought it was good timing. I like that. All right, so let's go right to this weekend that just happened. And we'll talk about the race first, and then we'll talk about the other crap after. Um, Started with yeah, because I mean you both were in this race, and it was really a stacked women's field. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
it was legit good. I remember looking at it beforehand. I'm like, wow, this is one that I was disappointed I didn't go because I would have liked to watch it firsthand. All right, what was your thought going in, Janelle?
I thought the same as you. I was like, wow, this is a stacked field. um, and I knew that there were so many. I knew Katie Duke. I'm like, I'm a data person. So I know everybody's times. Like I know everybody who has a time that's faster than me. I can probably tell you like what they average on their laps,
See,
if they're
I
better
like
at
both.
running.
I like
Yeah, if
I
they're
like
better
both
at
these
running
guys.
or the zones. Like I need to know who I'm going up against, which is why I don't like how Brooklyn and Lauren were at the ultra. I didn't know they were going to be there, so I didn't have any data on them. But anyway, so I just kind of, I mean, I like to know who's there, and I knew that Bethany, our times are so similar. There were so many women that had such similar times that it was going to be super close race, and it was,
Mhm.
And
which makes it more fun.
did you know about Katie Ambrosia? Because I didn't know a lot about her before. And oh my God, I'm even gapping on the girl to name who actually won from the second heat. Um,
Catherine Fossbender.
Catherine Fossbender. Yeah, did you have them on your radar at all?
I did not. Now I will say that I knew that Katie Ambrosia, like I have watched, what did she did like the one of the California races earlier this year, and I watched the live feed of that one, and it was her first race, and she won that one. So I didn't know that she was going to be there, but when I heard her name, because I also didn't really know what she looked like, but when I heard her name, I was like, well, oh shit, okay, well, she flies, like she's super fast. So I knew that she was out the gate. She was going to be with Katie Duke. Like I knew that. So sometimes, when you see the ones that are much faster, at least for me, I don't even try in my head to like keep up with them because that's going to blow up my race. So I just kind of have to mind my business. So I knew that those two were going to kind of battle it out. Um, and that's just a little bit out of my league, to be honest. At least right now, I don't run that fast.
And Beth, did you know about those two going in? Or
So same thing. I'd seen the name Katie D'Ambrosia, but I didn't know what she looked like.
Right.
Um, and but yeah, I off the hop again. Like I know Michelle Navarro's really been focused on her 5K times. She's been running a ton of 5K road races. So she took it out hot. And then, like that's fair. Like you feel super comfy running 330 kilometers off the start line. Katie Duke, and then there was me. And I feel comfortable running fast out of the gate too. Um, but yeah, then Katie D'Ambrosia was still kind of up there after the rower and stuff, and that kind of surprised me again. She's a smaller athlete, but I was so her running stride is so clean and efficient. And obviously like I was behind her observing it, and I was just, again, but as a smaller athlete, and she is too, I was also kind of expecting, once she hit the bike and the balls in the tank, that she would potentially fade back a little bit, but she and even the farmer's carry, and she handled it all really, really quite well. So, and she does have more of an ultra background, so her strength endurance is definitely there, and she's obviously worked on these DECA stations because they didn't seem to phase her too much. And yeah, she put in a really good time. But the interesting thing about this weekend too was that we had two women who finished in the top four that were actually from the second heat. And that makes it so tricky because we're not racing them in our race. So we had a girl, it was her first DECA fit ever, and she comes from the High Rocks community. And I kind of joked with her after, and I'm like, why didn't you tell anybody, that you're a ringer coming in here and you wanted to race the fast girls? And she's like, well, I didn't want to say it. And then, I shit the bed. And I'm like, okay, but come on. Like, she ran the fastest 5K split of the day. And we're talking about like Catherine Fossbender. I've been calling her Fast Bender all weekend, but yeah, just a super fast. And again, if you're not in that fast heat, you don't always necessarily. And then when her name popped up, we're all kind of standing there looking at the results, and then all of a sudden there's a girl that's bumped everybody down. And yeah, so at first you're like, okay, is there a mistake? And then you're like, no, like this girl just kind of walked in and she ran away with the field. And again, she would have been in a situation where she would have almost had to time trial that, because in her race she was 2 minutes ahead of the second place person in the second heat. So yeah, so and I mean that happens in this sport. It's still a new sport. We don't know everybody in their first race. They could just kind of pull it out there. And so yeah, it was kind of unique in that way. So the girl that won was from the second heat. The girl that was fourth was from the second heat, and I would just kind of we met them there this weekend. So
well, we'll put that one on Jack because I mean Jack Bauer has a big hand in organizing who's in the first wave, and man, Jack, he doesn't drop the ball very much, but he screwed the pooch on this one. I mean,
well,
definitely.
but the interesting thing though about Fastbender is that she doesn't race solo high rock, she races doubles.
Yeah, yeah,
So I will give it to him on this one. And that's what she said too. She's like, I really just raced doubles. So this is really new for her also doing a solo race.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Well, it it would have been nice to have seen her in there because I mean, like I didn't get to see anything from her, so it would have
yeah.
been another name, and Janelle would have had more stats to pluck. But
Right. I mean, but she ran a 1901 5K. I remember that very clearly because when her name popped
Yeah.
up, we're like like we were all like Bethany said, we were all standing there looking at the times, and um we were actually discussing what I'm sure we want to discuss later, but we were discussing
yeah,
if Katie Duke was going to get penalties, and then all of a sudden Catherine's name pops up, and I mean, that kind of like changed the game in terms of like the podium.
I think the
Mm,
last person I saw do this was Anas Zuri. And I think in his first race as well, he came out of the second heat and actually bumped Jack Bauer out of third place, knocked him off the
mm.
podium with that one. All right, screw this. Let's just go to it. All right, so Katie Duke's penalty. All right,
Yes.
all right, all right. Now you want to go? All right? Let me explain the situation, and then I'll turn you loose. Um, so basically, and I'll tell you from my perspective. I'd watched on the stream and saw Katie Duke trying to come from behind and past Katie Ambrosia on the burpees. Katie Duke is flying through the burpees, but not getting what appeared to be full extension. and nicks Katie Ambrosia the line by like less than a second. So I'm watching, and people were saying, commenting about the burpee form and it being not good and everything. And so I didn't really pay a ton of attention to that because that happens a lot, and that is what it is. And I mean, we talk about it a lot, and that's judge's discretion. But then I saw the dumbbell thing was brought to my attention at the farmer carry, and I'm like, okay, well, there should be a penalty for that. That's on video. We caught that. It's right in the rule books, 30-second penalty. So it should go through that. So when I found out that Katie did get a penalty, I was very confused by the 20 seconds. And I'll just so that's just a basis of what happened. Why don't you just what you take from there, how you kind of what you saw happen, how it worked for you, and what your take is on it. And I think you'll find we're probably in good company.
Okay. Well, first, well, okay. So when we were looking at the times, when we were all finished, we were looking at the times on the board. Shan came over to check the board also. Shan, who does the hybrid report, and he said he was looking to see if Katie had any penalties. And of course, we were racing, so I'm like, penalties for what? Now I clearly saw what happened in zone 6 because I was right behind Bethany, but I didn't know anything about her burpees. And so I asked Shan, and he said, well, when she was doing her burpees, there were at least 4 burpees that shouldn't have counted. Yancey was standing right behind her. He didn't call any no reps, and he wanted to see if they were going to assess penalties after. And then Shan is the one who told me that it's a 30-second penalty for her not putting her dumbbells back in the box. I don't know why I'm the person who received all this information, but I was like, okay, because I definitely saw what happened in zone 6. So in zone 6, I was running, Bethany was ahead of me. I was right behind her. When we came into the zone, Katie Duke was coming out of the zone. As she was coming out of the zone, she threw both of her dumbbells clearly outside of the box,
Mhm.
and they almost hit Bethany's feet as we were running in. So Bethany did exactly what I would have done. I would have picked them up because they're right there in front of her. So Bethany picked them up and she took off. And then I picked up my 2 from the inside of the box that Katie D'Ambrosia had actually just dropped down. I picked up the 2 that she had, and then we went through zone 6. Now I knew that it was against the rules to not put them back in the box, but I did not know that there was actually a penalty, a time penalty that would be assessed for that. I didn't find that out until after the race was over. Um, and so when I found out, I mean, here's my thing. Like, I come from an army background, and from where I'm from, the standard is the standard. So if there is something that is clear that's a penalty, then the penalty needs to be assessed. If it's a 30-second, if it says in the rule book that you get a 30-second penalty if your dumbbells are placed outside of the box, there should be absolutely no hesitation to give the person the penalty, especially if that person is on the podium. Um, and then, when it comes to the burpees, so I didn't see the burpees until I went back and watched Shan's live feed. So when I saw the feed, like he said, she didn't have a judge on her, but Yancey was right behind her. And I think that she was moving so fast that if Yancey would have called a no rep, maybe he's thinking it would have interrupted her flow so badly, because it's clear that she was trying to beat Katie D'Ambrosia. Like, that was clear. And maybe he thought he was going to ruin her flow. Like, I'm a coach, I can understand that. However, the problem is this is a race with a podium with prize money, and you set the standard. So if the standard says full extension in your reps, then there has to be full extension in the reps. And if the person who wrote it is the one watching you not do
Mhm.
the full reps, and that just looks terrible. And it also especially surprised me because when I watched the live feedback in the beginning, Amber and Shan were saying that before the mails went off, they're like, oh, well, Yancey sounds like he's on it. Like, he's going to uphold the standard today. He's really all in the rule book. He's telling the guys this about the lunges and about the rams and set the rams down and whatever. So when I heard that after, all the controversy about, the penalties, and I just was a little bit surprised, because if you started the day and you started the men's race and you're like, all right, this is what we're doing. We're going to hold everyone accountable for all of the reps. We're going to call no reps, or you're going to set your ram down. But then you don't do it. Like, it just makes it harder for us who are racing, who are upholding the standard, to, like, feel warm and fuzzy about it. She should have had a 30-second penalty easily for the dumbbells. And then she also should have had a penalty assessed. I don't, what is it, 5 seconds per burpee? I don't know what that one is, but
Yeah. Well,
she should have also had a penalty assessed for the burpees. But then other people say, well, if he didn't call it at the time and he's her judge, then when she crosses the line, they can't change it after. So that's some people's perspective on it also.
so
I mean, I go ahead.
do you think that they should be able to change it after? For not for the dumbbells, but for the reps.
Well, I actually feel the opposite. I feel like they should be able to change it after for the dumbbells because
Yes.
that one probably is a little bit harder. Okay. For the dumbbells, I think they should absolutely be able to change that after because they may or may not know until they watch a video back that shows it to them. So
100%.
I think that they should for sure. Okay. When you see that that's what happened, whoever the case may be, then you have to assess the penalty. Um, and don't come back to me and say you're not going to assess the penalty because if you add the penalty she's still going to be on the podium anyway. Okay, we'll still deduct her time. Like if she's still on the podium, then that's great, she's still on the podium. But if she needs a 30-second penalty for not putting her dumbbells back in the box, then you have to give her the penalty. I'm a firm believer, and you learn the lesson the best when you learn it the hard way. So if you get a penalty for throwing your dumbbells outside of the box, I bet you'll never do it again. But if you don't give her the penalty, then I mean, and I'm sure it wasn't intentional. It's not like she was trying to
Yeah.
throw them out. She just was moving so fast. But I bet you'll be a little bit more aware of what you're doing next time if you've gotten a penalty for it before.
Yeah. So for the reps, though, do you think the reps should be reviewable?
I think the reps, you have to call them while they're doing it. I think you have to have the balls while they're doing it to call the no rep. That's what
Yeah.
I think. And I think that if you don't call the reps while you're doing it, then I do think it's a little bit unfair to assess it after because you were watching her. So if
Mhm.
you didn't call it, if you didn't say no rep, if you're counting and you said 10 and you said 11 and you said 12, then when she gets to 20, she's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest difference here between these two penalties is with the dumbbells along, and it's along the same lines as the rules around not throwing the rams anymore at lunges and burpees. This is a safety issue. And again, I love Katie Duke, and none of these things were done intentionally for harm or anything else. And but there's the three rules that are for safety now with lunges, throwing the dumbbells at farmer's carry, and the ram burpees, and you have to place them down where they started from, and that's for the safety of the other athletes around you. And those are things too where it's kind of hard to call them in the moment because usually the athlete is dropping them or throwing them and then they're gone. So that judge would, I don't know, sometimes have to chase them down or something. So that's one where assessing the penalty after, it just kind of happens. That it is what it is. But I agree when we're talking about bad reps with lunges, med ball sit-ups, burpees. I don't know another one that would maybe apply, but box overs or something that if the judge isn't calling it in the moment, it's really hard to assess after. And especially, and again, I talked to Katie about this too, and she said, Yancey was my judge. So if I'm doing them and I'm not getting no reps, I'm assuming it's fine. So then to assess a penalty after, I think, and I completely understand that it from her perspective, that was just very unfair. Like she's, no wrapped her in the moment. She could have handled that a lot better than giving her time assessments after from the judge who was with her at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that.
yeah. I think we all do. And the part about it that really comes to play, and this is where Janelle, like, I really am on your side with this. You can't use video replay for reps against somebody and not have it apply to everybody else. And since it's not possible to have everybody on the video, it's a disadvantage to some people. So I mean, you come in and a disadvantage to Katie over, say, whoever was in fourth place and didn't get any video. Maybe all their reps sucked. Maybe fast bender who was in the second heat. Maybe every rep she did throughout the whole thing sucked. We don't know,
Yeah.
right? I mean, obviously it
Right.
didn't. It didn't. But I'm just saying theoretically it could have. So everybody
Right.
is not held to that same um scrutiny of the video replay. So I
Yeah.
don't think you can do it, and I don't think they should use it. And in fact, they had said in the past they would not use it. But
Uh,
and that's where that's really a bit of a thing. Because remember back when Mark Polzian had the really crazy reps when he was dying at the end and he was chasing somebody. I think it was, I don't remember if it was NorCal or SoCal or wherever. But and then he dropped the ram and they gave him a penalty for ram and said we can't review reps. And I thought that was the right call, that part, and they went back on it. I totally agree too. Anything with the safety, if you got video of someone doing something unsafe, throwing the rams, throwing the dumbbells, totally that you get a penalty for that no matter what. That doesn't matter. That can be reviewed because that's safety and it can be from anywhere. I did talk to Yancey today and I asked him about why he did what he did and the basically the his story and I don't even know if he agrees with what he did. But his story was that because when he looked back at it and saw how bad the reps are and that it was him there, he felt so bad that he had screwed over Katie Ambrosia by not calling the no reps and everybody else that he's like, I need to fix this because this was me. I screwed it up. And he felt a very big responsibility for making the mistake. So then he wanted to take into his hands to fix it. And unfortunately, I believe that yes, it was on him, but what he needed to do was say, this was on me. I made this mistake. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it because there's nothing in the rules that allow us to go back and review reps. And sadly, he should have had to eat it. But then she should have got her 30-second penalty for throwing the dumbbells, and it kind of would have worked out. But
Right.
what do you think? Do you like, should he have just done it that way? Should he have done something different? How would you have handled it?
Um, I agree. I mean, as someone who coaches athletes every day, it would be very easy for me to call a no rep, right? Like if you had a briefing in the morning and they said this is a standard, it has to be full extension, your chest has to hit the ram, et cetera, then when I see somebody doing something that's not the standard, easy for me to call a no rep. For like the volunteers, I can see how it's very challenging for them because this is not something that they do, you know, that's what you're supposed to do, but it's easier said than done, right?
Well, you guys are all
And
in
then
time.
even for right, like, and I agree with that. I'm like, this volunteer is looking at us like we're working our ass off, we're sweating, we're hurt, and you're gonna give me a no rep. They're probably like, nah, I'm just gonna let him go. Like it's okay. But for Yancey, I love Yancey because he gets so excited and he gets so like into it. And in that moment, he was clearly like so into it. He just loved the fact that there was a showdown. There was Katie
yeah.
D'Ambrosio who was ahead of her. There was Katie Duke who came flying in and she was trying to get the win. And he was so excited about it that I think that he just wasn't paying as much attention to like the reps as he should have been. That's the excuse I'm going to give him. Um, I mean, because we know how Yancey is. Like he means no, like he would
Oh,
never
Yeah.
intentionally miss, So he wasn't trying to, but it's just probably the excitement of the moment
Hmm.
is what caught him off guard. And so he probably should have, like you said, if it was me, I would have given her the 30-second penalty for the farmer's carry because that was blatant. That was
yeah.
very clear. You can't argue it. They almost hit Bethany's feet. I saw it because I was right behind her. Even if we didn't have video, I could have easily said, listen, like, nobody's gonna lie about this. Like she was a foot and a half outside of the red tape.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even close.
And it was in
Um,
the line of, and I was saying this too to people, like I picked them up because they were in the running zone.
yeah,
Like everybody
right.
was running. So I
It's
was like, if
where,
I don't pick
right,
these up, Janelle's gonna trip over them. So I might as
right.
well, even if I pick them up, put them back in the box, pick them back up again. Like, they're in the
Yeah,
way.
yeah. They were directly where we were running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and as a reflex, you're gonna pick them up. I mean, that's just what your body's gonna do. Like they're right in front of
Yeah.
you. So the penalty for that should have been assessed, and then maybe, like you said, Dave, like okay, he needs to just eat the fact that he messed up on the burpees, but not give her a penalty for the burpees.
Yeah.
And then that would have been maybe the best way to handle it. And just, he's always going to own up to what he did. So of course he would say, I should have given her a no rep. I didn't. But he was also behind her, right? So like I feel like that's also tricky. Like if you're behind
Mhm.
somebody who's doing burpees Like I think to call a no rep on a burpee, to be in their face where they can see you, where you can say no rep and you can also like no rep them, that's so much easier because you're calling it at her back and she can't see you and she can hear you, but she also was clearly on a mission. So that's where the judge needs to be in front of her so that she can see them calling a no rep. I mean, just for if I was her judge and I saw her form, I would want to be facing her so that she could see that I'm giving her a no rep.
That's a
Yeah.
good point because I didn't see the live stream, and obviously I wasn't there because I was running still. And but
Thing.
because he had said, I had told her to get up higher multiple times, but we all know when you're in a race, and especially at that point, all she's thinking about is trying to do it faster than Katie D'Ambrosa. So
Yeah,
you're in
right.
so laser focused race mode that everybody's screaming around you. If someone's yelling something
Yeah,
behind your back, you have no idea what they're saying. So, like
right.
again, get in front of them, have hand motion or something so that it's very clear that it's a no rep. But yeah, I didn't see that. But yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Like, even if he was just in front of her and being a little bit more animated that she needs to get up higher or something. So, she probably just
Yeah.
didn't hear him either.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like you said, you're in the zone, you're focused. I mean, I vividly remember at the Ultra, Dave being right in front of me, Janelle, full extension, Janelle, get your arms up, Janelle. But he was in my face, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it's just like if they're in your face, I just think it's a little bit easier to make sure that person hears you. So
Hmm.
she probably heard him, but I mean, it's just hard, like talking at somebody's
Yeah.
back just isn't, that's
Yeah.
just never going to be as effective as like if you're facing them, especially when this person is laser focused. They're trying to hunt somebody down. They're trying to knock these 20 out and be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least that referee position is a very important point. Like you need to be able, and I've even just to see properly as a judge, I kind of like to be on that 45-degree angle in front so that you can see because
Right.
the elbow can look like it's locked out from one side and not be even closed on the other. And so you kind of get that dual side. And then exactly like you say, you can communicate with the athlete. And by the way, your burpees were really quite good on the ultra. They weren't that bad. I just like to keep
I
them.
mean, and I was like, Dave, like, come on, like, why are you on my back
Snap
like
those
this? Like,
fucking elbows, Janelle. Come on.
I'm like, what? And then my last judge, because Dave came over to me every time, every, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But then on the last time, everybody's like, Janelle, your burpees on your fifth set were so good. They were just as perfect as they were on your first. And I'm like, well, please go tell Dave. Please tell Dave. Because he's been all over me. Somebody
I,
let
I
Dave
was
know.
all over everybody. I was on a mission that day to make that burpee pit the best burpees we've ever seen. And
It was.
there were
You
some
did.
damn good ones. Everybody participated. They were getting them up there. Um, yeah, so what I said to Yancey today, and I said that they, for the sport to be taken seriously, they need a head official at these events, and it needs to not be him. He has
Yeah.
too many other things to do, too much going on, and quite frankly, it just is not suited to his skill set. Like, he
Yeah.
is he is a promoter, he's enthusiastic, he is positive, he is everything this sport needs, but he shouldn't be put in that role. And he's already got too much on his plate.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yancey shouldn't be counting the reps of the women's feet finishing burpees. Yeah. Mhm.
No, no. And then, the thing is that he is so invested in us, as athletes. He's so nice. He sees us all the time
Yeah.
that, of course, it's hard for him to give her no rep. Like he
And
probably
as
loves Katie.
people, like he knows a
Yeah,
lot
right.
of us personally. Mhm.
Yes. Right. So, like, the last thing he's going to want to do is give her a no rep. I mean, he sees her at all his races, I mean, and I'm sure that that is very challenging for him. So I agree. It needs to be somebody else.
It
He
needs to be
loves to
Dave
be in
because
the
he's
mix.
heartless.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'll be
Yes,
heartless.
right. Put somebody make Dave the
Yeah, yeah.
put him in
All it
charge.
takes is money. I also think too, and I mean, I don't know if you've ever sat in on the kind of the pre-talk with the volunteers and the judges and stuff, but I think there needs to be a culture change of where the judges feel empowered to make the call. Because right now it's like you guys, we all know it's like we don't really want to give no reps. We want to give warnings and we want them to comply on their own kind of thing. We don't want to, and it comes from a desire to not be involved in deciding the race, right? Like nobody wants the judges to decide the race. They want the athletes to decide the race. But the problem is by not judging the race fairly and equally across the board, you effectively are judging the race, are making the
Affecting the
affecting the
result.
outcome of the race. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas you need to call the no reps that need to be called, and that way you're not affecting it. You're just enforcing the rules. That like what you really want is you want someone to walk away from that race going, "Who was the judge? I have no fucking idea," because everything goes right, everything went smooth. So that's the thing. I think they need to empower the volunteers and the judges and tell them that it's okay to call a no rep. If you call a no rep and someone gives you shit for it, we have your back because we know you're not calling it maliciously. And as long as if you feel it's there, it's there. It's no one's, it's, they just need to know they have the backing and the ability to call it. Because right now, I think that the judges feel all they're there is to do is count. And we're not going to get a really good sport that way.
Hmm.
So look at that. Nobody
Yeah, I
argues.
agree. Well, I agree because like you said, if you want the sport to be taken seriously, then that's what needs to happen because okay, so Bree was fourth place
Mhm.
and she is, if I'm not mistaken, she's exactly 30 seconds off of Katie Duke's time with her penalty. So if the appropriate penalties were assessed, like say if she got her 30-second penalty for the dumbbells and the farmer carry and they no repped her when she was
You know
doing
how that
her, I mean, if they would have no repped her, then maybe her time would have been slower and that would have changed up the podium. So I mean, it is it's important. Like you have to uphold the standard. If you're saying that this is what the standard is, then you have to uphold it. Because otherwise people are gonna not come to DECA, which we've all seen comments on various posts where people are like, well, I mean, DECA is a joke. They have the volunteer judges, everybody's form is different. And it's so much better now with the
Oh,
standards on the lunges and the burpees, but it still isn't as good as it could be if we just made sure that every single standard was upheld. And if you set that precedence, then when people come into the race, they're going to know. Like you can't bullshit this. You're not going to half rep this because you're going to get called out for it and you're going to have to do more reps. So it just needs to be how Yancey started out on Saturday, where he's like, this is what we're going to do, and this is the standard. That has to be the tone for the entire day. I don't care if it's elite age group, it needs to be the same for the age group. It needs to be the
Hmm.
same for the kids. If you got to, I mean, whatever it takes to get people to understand that this is how the standard is going to be. That's how it is in all the other sports. Like, I've done a high rocks multiple times, and I've had 2 millimeters of my heel outside of the square, and they're like, Janelle, you got one more time. And like, and because they don't play, like, and it's just somebody who they don't have any feelings associated with it, but she just sees that my foot is tiny bit over the line, and 2 millimeters over the line is the same as a whole foot over the line. So if I'm over, I'm over. And so that makes me more aware. Okay, I have to make sure I'm stepping exactly where I'm supposed to be. You can't get mad at them.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
they're telling you what you should already know, right? Like if you're going to do the race, then you should know the rules.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, and they didn't put your foot over the line. They didn't cause you to do
Right.
it. They're just
Exactly.
telling you didn't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So,
So you two are like mainstays in the women's field, and you mentioned it, Janelle, where heard other people say, "Well, I'm not coming because of this," or "I'm not coming because of this." When you see stuff like this, does it deter you? Does it take away from your thought process or your commitment?
um, me, no, but I will say no. So it doesn't now because I wasn't in a position to be on the podium.
Mhm.
So, but honestly, if it was me and if I was Bree, maybe I would feel differently.
Mhm.
Um, I I like DECA and I like what it stands for and I like what they're doing. I know that it's not perfect, but I mean, they're getting communities of people who don't exercise to exercise, and I'm a huge fan of that. They're getting people to exercise as kids and exercise as adults and go into your local gym and support your local gym, your local affiliate, to get your mark, your time. So I think that I'm always going to support them just because I believe in what they're doing so heavily. Um, I mean, there are a lot of things that they could work on for sure, but also as a gym owner, I mean, I know how hard it is to have thousands of people in one arena and you're trying to, put this race on. I mean, it's a lot and you can only do so much when it comes to like your volunteers that you have judging and all of these other things. So it's not going to deter me. Um, I'm also not the person who is making any type of livelihood off of this, or I don't want to be a professional racer necessarily. So I'm not going to be like, I'm not so bothered by these things. Maybe I just want them to be fair, and that's just simply because of the person that I am. I'm the type of person that I believe in upholding the standard, and if you say that this is the standard, then that's what it needs to be. But I mean, nothing is perfect, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit tricky because it's like you don't want to be too hard on them,
Yeah,
not for something that's supposed to be for fun and it's supposed to be, like just to better everybody and to get everybody healthier and to get everybody moving. You don't want to write them off just because they're not calling the no reps, right?
Yeah, like I think about it too in that, we were here on this podcast and we're talking for 30 minutes about this one scenario and basically, these two or three athletes that are really affected. But then when you look at the other hundreds of people that were there, that had really nothing to do with this situation and it means nothing to them one way or the other, that still had an incredible experience out of it and all of the the training and everything else that came of it, their DECA fit experience, that again had nothing to do with this little part of the weekend. But we here will spend time talking about it because we want to improve DECA as a whole and as a competitive sport. And we're kind of one-sided when it comes right now as we're talking with the DECA stuff, but really like DECA and what it stands for is much bigger than just these scenarios here with full extension on burpees and such. But yeah, I think DECA stands for a lot more than just that. So again, I love DECA and I love what it stands for, and I had a really cool experience this weekend too. And this is a tiny part of it, and we only talk about it because we want it to be better. And some of it being better is again for the safety of the sport, and some of what we're talking about too is a safety issue.
Right.
you, it's funny you talk about having a great experience this weekend, Beth. I remember, I think you were already, or you were just about to leave, or you were on your way to Oaks, and you're like, or maybe you had just got there and you're like, oh, I'm sick of these trips. I'm not doing these trips again, or whatever it was you said. And I said, yeah, but
Said I'm
you're gonna
never
have a
driving this far again.
yeah. I'm like, but you're gonna have a killer experience, and then all of a sudden you're gonna be in love again, and you'll do it a time and time again, and there's just
I
no.
know, I'm a sucker for it.
And then you had it, and then you had that experience again.
I
Um,
know.
all right, so plain and simple. I think, yeah, we all agree. And I think across the board, pretty much this is the same gist I'm getting from everybody is
Yeah.
should have been no penalty for the no for the bad reps, and definitely should have been a penalty on the safety stuff. And I feel for Katie because it must have been a very frustrating weekend for her. Um, I am happy for Katie Ambrosia because she deserved the win. So I don't know, it didn't quite
You
work.
mean Catherine Fastbender.
Fa-
Catherine Fassbender, sorry,
And that's
Katie
not her name, but that's what I like calling her.
Fassbender.
Bossbender.
Boston. Sorry. Katie deserved the second place. Katie Embroid. So,
yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad that part at least worked out. And I know that that was what Yancey was going for, despite the fact I disagree with how he did it and what he did. I still respect his motives and what he was trying to do. And I do. I hope they make an attempt to make this better and stop this from happening, this kind of thing from happening again. Shit will happen again, but hopefully not this. There'll always be controversy, but
Yeah.
hopefully, we just stick to the rule books and go from there and keep making it better. Um, there was a question I didn't, and now since, we kind of beat that to death. I wanted to ask you guys about this one too. Just quick question about High Rocks actually. So High Rocks has released this qualifications for age group and stuff like that, and there's been a lot of questions about that. Where they've said now there'll be more qualifications for the pro wave going to age group and not open waves going to worlds. And this has been something that has stuck in my head for a while as a question is why is it that people in the open wave are qualifying for the pro weights at worlds? And did you even know that was a thing?
Say that one more time.
So last year, people could qualify for world championships, essentially age group in the pro wave with pro weights by
Uh-huh.
running an open weight division.
Correct. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So why is that a thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that, like you said, that gets a lot of controversy too, because everything at Worlds is pro weight.
Mhm.
Everything, all the races at Worlds are pro weight. And yes, you can make it to Worlds on open weights. I mean, that I think that a lot of High Rocks' qualifications are, I think I need some more light. A lot of High Rocks' qualifications are um questionable a little bit.
Oh, that was diplomatic. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was a
I think
mom
that
answer there. Make good choices.
um right. I have two Virgo babies. I have to
Yeah.
say what I mean and mean what I say. I mean, it is questionable because that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, I could fly at open weights like a lot of people could, and make it to worlds, and then I get to pro weight, and you're like, oh shit, this is not even close to being the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Um,
It's
the
even
difference on
25 less wall balls
Yeah.
yeah, right, right, with
for
a
women. Yeah.
much lighter ball. So I don't know, Dave. I mean, that does not make any sense to me. Um, because your ability as an athlete to do an open high rocks is very different than your ability as an athlete to do a pro high rocks. Um, I mean, and I say that because I've done open, I've done pro, and I've done go ruck. So I've done them all. Um, and it's a very different experience. I mean, the sled push isn't close. The sled pull is very different. Um, I mean, and I'm someone who I'm stronger than I am fast. I think that that's a fair assessment to say. And so I can do both. But for the people who are faster than they're strong, okay, they smashed and open, but they're going to get to that sled push and it's not going to move, like imagine I'm not going to discount anybody. Like, but say somebody who is just the size, not strength, but the
You
size
can
of
use me as an
um
example. It's fine.
I I was almost said Bethany, but you know what I was gonna say? Katie D'Ambrosia,
Yeah.
just purely off of her size, right? We know that she's a strong athlete, but imagine if she went to do the sled push at the pro weight. I mean, so if someone like Bethany could do an open weight and they could do the sled push in 2 minutes and 10 seconds, so you flew through that, but then you get to the pro at Worlds and it's 345 pounds or whatever it is. I mean, it's just very different. Now, of course, you have in some scenarios more time to train to the difference, but
You're still,
I mean,
I mean, I still am what I am when it comes to my size.
right,
Like
right,
I can only do as much as I can with my size. So
right,
yes, it's very different.
right. It's very different. The sled push, the sled pull, the wall balls, that weight, the difference in a 9 pound ball and a 14 pound ball is ginormous when it
Mhm.
comes to a wall ball. The same way the difference in a 14 pound ball and a 20 pound ball is ginormous when it comes to wall balls. Um, and what was the lunges? I mean, the lunges I feel like you probably could do, um, but it just would take you a
Yeah.
lot longer. It's a lot more taxing.
Yeah.
It's twice as heavy.
The thing that I don't understand, this is what gets me. And so High Rocks this year it says we're gonna give less spots to the open wave to qualify and more to the pro wave. which to me
Hmm.
acknowledges that they realize that this is a mistake and a problem. But why not just
Hmm.
eliminate the problem instead of slowly weaning us off it?
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, that's the
If you
part that
want to make it
I
to
don't
Worlds,
understand.
you have to do a pro race.
Yeah. And if you
Yeah.
want
I
people,
mean,
if you want open people to get it, then make an open championship and let them have one from there. And you can
yeah,
qualify for
right,
open and do
High
open
Rocks
from there.
heavy, High Rocks light.
Yeah, we've been going.
right.
The open is such a deceiving name for that. I hate that name, the open.
Yeah.
You know?
And make it
It,
100
yeah,
ball balls for women. But anyway, for the lighter weight.
Yeah.
yeah, right, right. Why is it 75? That, I mean,
So weird.
they also, yeah, that is weird. But again, I think a lot of High Rocks' qualifications are, um, they're
Questionable.
tricky. Like they're confused. Yeah, they're questionable. They're confusing. You have to do a lot of research to actually find out what the qualification is.
Well, and this is something else that's come up is you could actually, so let's say, for example, let's say I wanted to qualify for age group and I'm going to Toronto to race and I'm all set. I'm going to go to Toronto race. I'm figuring, okay, there may be one or two qualifying spots. I'm ready. I get there, I go, and then I don't research it again, but I do. I run my race, I win my age group. And they go, yeah, but there's no qualifying spots for World Series. And it's like just bizarre reasonings and numbers to where they're taking away for that might be the only race I can realistically get to. And even if I win and
Right.
it's the best time in my age group for the year of all time, I still don't qualify.
And then you don't know that there are no spots until 2 days before the race. So
Exactly.
you've bought your ticket and you have committed to this race and you have trained for it, but you don't know how many slots there are or if there's a slot at all until 2 days before the race, because
Mhm.
that's when they know how many people are coming total and that's how they did the breakdown or whatever. Um, Questionable, tricky. It's tricky is what it is. Like
I like to
it just
call it
makes it so hard. Like it just makes it hard,
I like to
because
call
you
it
don't
German
know.
engineering. It's very much German engineered.
Right.
Very much. All right, we got two quick things, and then we're gonna go because it's getting dark for you there, and you gotta get rolling. Quick thing, we do a little Ask Bethany segment, and Bethany is not prepped for this question, but luckily it's a very simple one.
Oh
Uh,
no. Okay.
and Janelle, you can actually jump in on this as well. Bethany, how do I get my lazy child to participate in these sporting events like your daughter?
Ooh.
Okay. Do you want me to know? Okay. Um, so I told her, okay, I'm going to have a funny answer and and a serious answer. So I told her, when you race, you can eat as much sugar and caffeine as you want.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's my not serious answer. So she took that quite seriously. And even uh Nicole Kelly bought her a sprinkle donut for breakfast and a Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Nice.
Um, and which is also because it was her birthday and it was a birthday thing or whatever. So, and then the other thing is I surround my kids with fitness, but I don't make them do it. But some of it is just, they do it because they're around it all the time anyways. And I never made my daughter do it, but I prompted her to make the decision on her own while guiding her in the direction that she should choose. So like I made the training fun and there was rewards and stuff along the way and it was her decision that I kind of subtly guided her towards. So then when she chose to do it, it was on her.
So I like to call this mom manipulation.
Yes. Yes, it is mild manipulation in a
Mild mom
positive direction.
manipulation. The
Mild
mild
mom
mom
manipulation.
manipulator. That could have been your name today. The mild mom manipulator.
There you go.
Yes,
I
yep.
am the mild mom manipulator. Yes.
All right, Janelle, is this something that you've thought about with your twins? Like, are you gonna get them to live that kind of healthy lifestyle?
Absolutely. That
We're
is
like,
like I
how
even
can we manipulate our
yeah,
children to do
for sure. I even told Bethany when Bethany was posting about her and her daughter, I'm like, you are living my dream right now. Like I can't wait. Um But like it's the exposure. So like my girls are 3, but last night, for example, they wanted to do an obstacle course around the house. So like when they do an obstacle course, they will run laps downstairs and I'll say, okay, you're on the ski. And they'll pretend ski, with nothing. And then they're like, Mom, what's next? And then I'm like, okay, you got 10 push-ups. They don't know how to do a push-up, but they do what they see. Okay, you have 10 sit-ups. And so not only that, it's because they're immersed in it.
Hmm.
That is what they see all the time. They've been coming to the gym with me since they were born, basically, like in sitting in their car seats in the gym while I worked out. Now they're in school now for the first time, but they've been in the gym probably 300 days out of the year every year since they were born. So it is very heavily like what they know. And if there's a day that I don't go to the gym, they're like, Mom, are you like you're not going to the gym today? Like if it's a rest day or if it's a day that I'm off. So I don't think I'm going to have to, maybe I won't have to mildly mom manipulate them. Maybe it's something that they will want to do because it's what they see. And everything with those two is a race. I mean, if I'm driving home and their dad is driving home and we have separate cars, one's getting in the car with me and one's getting in the car with Dada, and it's a race. And so whoever gets home last is crying, like they are upset. Um, I mean, every single thing, everything around the house is a race. The other day, like they were playing cars, and Zoe is like, Ellie, I want to be the winner. And Ellie was like, well, this is not a race. And Zoe said, well, but I want to be in the lead. So it still is okay, okay, fine. We're not having a winner. Fine. I want to be in the lead. Like I want to be in the front. So I think that we're going to have a lot of fun with the girls when they start playing sports and they know what they want to play. And hopefully it won't be too challenging. I mean, one of my girls is more into it than the other, but they definitely both like it. So I think
Hmm.
it's the exposure.
Awesome.
Well, and I don't want to get the manipulation piece twisted here too, but I think it's not tricky, and it's just a reality. But my kids, like me and their dad, are separated, so they live two different lives, and sometimes they make comments where it's, oh, when we're with mom, we always have to be so active, and it's always about this. And then at their dad's, it's different. So, they'll train and they'll work out when they're with me, and then it's not with their dad. And so it's kind of two different lives in a sense in that way. So in that way, it's not, it's kind of a mom thing. And and so I guess in that way it's a little bit different and it's a little bit more tricky. Um, but but yeah, I guess there's a fun component to it too, where it's interesting too, because again, my kids have still grown up in it. And my daughter raced this weekend, and she shocked me, and she had to do the adult weights if we were going to stand on podiums. And it's not like she's been training for this for a year, and she's just so immersed in it when she's with me, and even just kind of joking around and playing in the gym, that there's like a base level of fitness that just happens kind of being around it all the time because of our general lifestyle, that she's like she could just handle it in that sense. And I think that's kind of the biggest piece though with your kids, is you just kind of have to make it a part of your everyday lifestyle. And obviously, like, I run a gym, and there's a lot of moms that they're coming super early in the morning, so then the rest of their day is towards their kids, and that's fine if that works for you. But I also always allow moms to bring their kids if they need to, and if their kid's going to jump, I have kids weights, I have miniature weights and stuff too. So if their kid wants to jump in and do the workout with their mom, again, the kids are immersed in it with their mom, and it kind of builds that baseline of fitness for the kids too, where 10 years down the road, if they're like, yeah, I'm gonna jump in and do this deck fit, and then they can just handle it in a way. So I don't know, there's no right or wrong way, but I think just make your fitness life a part of your kids' life, and just make it so normal. It's just a part of their life too. Normalize it.
Awesome. All right. Beth, I
Mhm.
think we've taken up enough of Janelle's nights. She's sitting in their car in the dark.
Yeah.
We gotta let her
I
go.
know,
And
I was I was at the gym and Bethany said 7:30, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home real quick. Um, and then on the way, it popped through, which was fine. It's fine.
that's
I
right.
just hope you can still.
Absolutely can. Absolutely can. Absolutely can. Um, all right. And Beth, why don't you just wind us out? And we tried to go quickly and we failed epically as always.
I know. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jill. Yeah, I said, hey, pop on with us quick and we'll talk about this. And we were not quick at all. So, but thanks so much, Janelle, for joining us and sharing a little bit about your experience. And, we're always following along and we're big fans of you too. So, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for all your support.
Yeah.